All right, folks. In this one, we're talking about how to set goals. Now, I think that you were probably going to hear something in this episode that you have not heard before when it comes to setting goals. Because I think me and Scotty have a pretty unique take on how we do this, how we recommend doing it, how we do it ourselves. And the reason that we're talking about this really, the thing that made me think of this was the other night I was talking to one of my friends who works a typical 9 to 5 job. And he was talking about he works in like a sales position basically, and he was talking about I don't really understand all the specifics of how it all works, but the basic premise is that he has like a set goal to get to like $10,000 in something. It's not like in total sales; it's something else. I don't really understand it, but the goal is 10,000, and I think he's pretty close. I think he's at like 8,000 or something, and he's got to hit it by like June. So he's got a decent amount of time to be able to hit that goal. Pretty realistic. So I told him, doing as I do, giving unsolicited advice to anyone who doesn't ask. That's the Nate Schmidt motto right there. No, he actually did ask me for some advice, I think. Anyway, I told him that he should change that goal from 10,000 to 15,000. Even though the real goal is 10,000, I told him that he should change it to 15,000 because he probably can hit 15,000. And even if he doesn't, well, he'll probably still hit the 10,000 goal, which is the real goal. So that's kind of how it all started. So I guess the first part of how to set goals is take whatever you think is realistic, and then like 1.5 exit. If it's 10,000, make it 15,000. If it's 100,000, make it 150,000. Whatever the goal is, we're capable of so much more than we think, and it's kind of one of those things where it's like aim for the whatever the thing is, aim for the stars. If you miss, you'll land on the moon. Whatever kind of corny shit like that. It's true. I think it's very true, and that's kind of like the first part. Whatever you think you should set your goal as, like get that number in your head and then 1.5 exit, make that the new goal. That's the first part. Now, that's probably not anything too crazy. You probably have heard something like that before. Set bigger goals, think bigger. That's a big theme. That's something that honestly, like I think everyone needs to hear. That's like the number one piece of advice that whenever I talk to someone or whenever someone I know talks to someone who is like older, more experienced in business and stuff, their number one thing is always like think bigger. Their number one piece of advice is always think bigger. And I honestly think that like 1.5x is on the low end. Like you could probably make that like 2x or 5x or whatever. 1.5x though, I think is like the perfect number where it's still somewhat realistic, but it's just like it's a little bit out of reach. It's a little bit far up there. And it's something to work towards that's just like not, I don't know, like super mediocre or something like that. I think that's a really good number. Um, the other parts of setting goals is, I guess, how do I want to do this here? So I think that, another thing is obviously you want the goal to be very specific. If you're going to go set a goal, you want it to be a specific goal. It's not just like, I want to make money this year. Like set a specific number, set a number that you want to make. Say you want to make $80,000 this year. Set a very specific number for what you want to achieve. And then the second part is you also should probably set a very specific deadline for when you want to have it achieved by, because I think one of the episodes that we had in the past was nothing gets done without a deadline. If you don't have a deadline, you're probably not going to work as hard as you would if you did. So I think a hard deadline is very key. But then I think probably the biggest thing, and the thing that is not as common when it comes to goals, is the difference between a goal-oriented goal and a process-oriented goal. So a goal-oriented goal is just like a typical goal, right? Like I want to make $80,000 this year. That is a goal-oriented goal. And I think there's kind of a two-step process when it comes to setting goals. You want to set the goal-oriented goal, whatever the result is that you want to achieve, but you also really don't want to focus on the goal-oriented goal, because just focusing on that goal is like not all that beneficial. Like if all you can think about is I need to make $80,000 this year, like fuck, I need to make this money. Like, dude, I'm so behind. Like I need to make this money. Like that's just not a great place to be operating from. Not a very like good mindset to have when you're going at things. So the second part of it is once you have your goal-oriented goal set, the next step is to reverse engineer whatever the process is that's required to get there. And then instead of focusing on your goal oriented goal every single day, day in and day out, focusing on your process oriented goal. So there's a pretty big distinction there. Scotty, do you get that distinction there? Does that make sense?
I very much get that distinction. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you have
Process
a pretty
goals
solid
are
understanding.
near and dear to my heart. The thing about setting like longer term goals, like, yeah, I want to hit this amount of income or this amount of revenue this year. I feel like a lot of the time I like way overshoot it or I way undershoot it. And either way, I'm like okay with that. So you start out with a goal of like 600K in this business and 100K in this business. And it ends up being like the other business does more, like the smaller, what you expected the smaller business to be ends up being way bigger. And what you expect the bigger business to be doesn't hit anywhere close to the goal. And at the end of the day, you look at your income or you look at your results and you ask yourself, am I happy with that? And like, yeah, you know, not the goal I set, but it's a good year all in all. So for me, like big revenue goals or like net worth goals or stuff like that, or I like to set them, just give me a target and then allow me to kind of work backwards. Like, okay, what are the steps we need to do? What do we need to hit monthly? And what do we need in place to hit that monthly? Um, but whether we actually hit the goal or not, kind of irrelevant. As weird as it is to say. Okay, it's not advice I would give people, but that is definitely the way I feel. At the end of the day, it's kind of irrelevant whether you hit the big goal or not, whether you overshoot, undershoot. It's mostly about just giving you a target and allowing yourself to work back from that to set those process oriented goals. Because the way I see it, business is a lot of the times volatile. And one of the key things back to mindset, sorry for the guy who hates mindset, but you're going to learn to love it if you stick around.
Aaron's just pulling his hair out right now. Listen to this.
um, you're going to have great days, you're going to have bad days, but it's not dependent. Like in terms of results, you're going to have good days and bad days, but it's not dependent on what you did that day. It's dependent on what you did the week before, the month before, the year before, the decade before. Um, and as such, I think you have to detach your personal feeling of success, of accomplishment, of how happy you are with how business is going. You have to detach it from the daily or the weekly results. And I think the best way of doing that is by having process goals of, hey, if you're in sales, don't even have the goal of doing 15K sales or whatever the goal is. Have the goal of, I'm going to do 10 cold calls outbound and I'm going to do whatever many inbound calls or whatever the hell the controllable measure is, whatever is directly in your control. If you're trying to build a Twitter account, have a goal of doing or sending out 10 tweets a day. There's zero excuse to not hit that. You should hit that 365 days a year. If not, you're not really that serious about the goal. Now, if you set the goal of I want to make 100K from my Twitter this year, like if it gets to like on any given day, there's nothing you may or may not hit that. You may overshoot that 5x, or you might not even get anywhere close to it. But if you set the goal of sending out 10 tweets a day, there's zero excuse not to hit that. And if you didn't hit that, if you don't consistently hit that, you have to ask yourself, do I really want this, and where am I fucking up? Why am I not able to just do this simple thing that I see I want to do? Apparently you don't if you can't hit that goal.
Yeah. So I think the key distinction there is like your goal is the result. It's the thing you're going after, but you can't control it. You have absolutely no control over whether or not you hit a certain goal. If you want to make $100,000 this year, at any given moment on a day-to-day basis, you don't have any control over whether or not that happens. What you do have control over is the things you do in order to reach that goal. And that, my friends, is what we call the process. So the basic, I guess the basic process for setting goals is like decide what you want, 1.5 exit, set the goal-oriented goal of what you want to achieve, then reverse engineer what you need to do on a daily basis to get there. And then instead of like, I think at that point, you can basically throw out the initial goal-oriented goal and then just make your goals process-oriented. Okay, if I want to make $100,000 this year, I need to send out 10 cold emails a day. I need to send 10 tweets a day. I need to test 4 products a month, whatever it is. Set your process oriented goals and then only measure your success based on whether or not you actually hit those process oriented goals. If you focus on the process and you do the right things day in and day out, the results are going to come eventually. Like it's a matter of time. These things, they take time. Like it's just kind of how it goes. You're not going to make $100,000 overnight. It takes time to come to fruition. But if you can just focus on the process and just doing the right things day in, day out, like that's the best way to do it. That is the absolute 100% best way to do it. Don't even worry about what your goal is. It doesn't even matter. Like just get so involved in the process. And then and then you like whether or not you hit it is kind of irrelevant, like Scotty was saying. But most of the time you'll probably hit it like over a long enough period of time. If you set a decently realistic goal and then 1.5x it, and then you focus on the process every step of the way, I don't know. I think you're going to have a tough time not hitting that goal.
100%. I mean, there's so many examples we can give in the real world that are maybe easier to understand. Take weight loss, for example. If you're obese, you're 300 pounds, you want to lose 200, or I guess you want to lose maybe like 120 pounds. If you want to lose 120 pounds, having that goal is cool, but the better thing to set as your goal is a daily process goal of I'm going to eat 2,300 calories and I'm going to get 5,000 steps. There is zero reason not to get your 5,000 steps. If you don't get your 5,000 steps and your goal is weight loss, then you have to ask yourself, do I really want this? And where am I fucking up? It's completely in your control. If it's 11:30 p.m. and you've only got 3,500 steps for the day, it is still in your control with 30 minutes left in the day to get in your steps. It's just entirely in your control. Now, after a year, you may lose only 80% of the weight you wanted to lose. That's kind of how it goes sometimes. Maybe you overshoot the goal. Maybe you get even better shape than you expected. But setting the goals daily and having it something that is entirely in your control, I think is super important. Of course, with weight loss, it's easy. Like, hey, hit these calories, do this amount of exercise, do this amount of steps. With ecom, the other part of it is, or anything in business, you have to figure out what are the right things to be doing every single day as well. I think most of people in here probably doing ecom, as this is the ecom dispensary. I would say if you don't yet have a store that's working, I think your process goal should be test probably 2 stores a month. 2 stores a month and new set of ads every 3 days. I guess that's 10 sets of ads and 2 stores a month until you get it to work. I think that's your process goal if you're starting from scratch. If you're not starting from scratch, if you've got a business up and running, it becomes a bit more different. I think on the ad side, it definitely is like, depending what stage you're at, it's either daily ads or like ads every 3 days, new ads. And then you also have to ask yourself, what big changes, what big improvements do I need to make to get to where I want to go? So if your goal is $1 million this year in revenue and you're currently doing 30K, you're currently doing 30K in shipping from China with an agent, then part of that goal to hit $1 million is probably going to be, I have to move my inventory to the US. So again, you work backwards from there. How much inventory do I need to be how much inventory do I need to be ordering weekly in order to build up enough inventory so that I can make that transition? How much cash do I need to have set aside? How much cash am I generating daily, weekly? And how long is it going to take me to get to that amount that I need for the bulk order? It's always like, take the big goal, find the smaller goals that are necessary, the smaller steps necessary to get to the big goal, and then what needs to happen in order to hit those smaller goals.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good way to put it, man. I think that's a pretty good way to put it. And it's just so key to me to not get too caught up in the goal itself, because it's just, I don't know. I think it's really easy to do so. And like 99% of the time when you're focusing on the goal, you're not focusing on like, oh my God, dude, I'm so close to hitting this goal. Like, this is awesome. I'm doing great work. Like, this is going amazing. It's almost never like that. Like, if you're really focused on the goal, 9 times out of 10, it's the exact opposite of that. And it's like, fuck, I'm not where I need to be. Like, I set this goal of making $100,000 this year, and we're halfway through the year. I've only made like 20. And, I'm not even on track to reach my goal. And you just kind of start feeling like shit because you're focusing on something you can't control, and there's nothing that you can really do about it. And that's just like the absolute worst place to be operating from. So if you can just focus on the process, and like, Scotty, before we started recording this, you were kind of talking about like what you were going to say. I just loved how you put that. And your measure of a good day is, did I do the things that I needed, that I wanted to do today to reach my goals? It's not a matter of, was today a good day because the store did this much in revenue? Like, I doubt that you even give a fuck. Like, you don't even care. But if you go to the gym, you go to jujitsu, you do the things that you need to do for the brand, whatever, you talk to some hot Latinas, whatever it is that you want to do. If you do those things in a day, then it's a good day. And I think that's a really great way to measure it, because it's so easy to just get caught up in the numbers and get so focused on that you lose sight of the day-to-day process and really enjoying it.
100%. Perfect example. Again, I'll go back to my obesity example, a guy who wants to lose weight. Your weight may or may not drop that given day because your weight fluctuates. It's not like a linear loss. Your weight may or may not be down on the scale that morning, but that's not what makes the day successful or not. What makes a day a success is, did you hit your calorie goal? Did you hit your step goal? And if those are the two process goals that you've set and you hit those, then that's a successful day. And everything else is kind of besides the point. If your goal is to train jiu-jitsu every day, or if you want to get better at jiu-jitsu, I think the way to do it is just decide how many times a week you're going to go. Always go those days. And whether you get your submissions that day or not, it's kind of besides the point. Just go in with a goal of going however many times. Yeah, if you do that, then that's a success. You're going to have good days and bad days. And but if you keep showing up, you're going to get better. It's 100% the same in business.
Yep. And I think to close it off, like the final thing, and we've talked about this in probably multiple other episodes, but it's just the fact that it takes time to see results with anything worth doing. It's not going to happen immediately. And you just got to keep that in mind. Like, I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people is, like, success in business, in my experience, it's just like it's a very slow moving thing at first. And it feels like you're not making any progress for months. And then all of a sudden it just starts snowballing. And then it almost feels like it happens overnight. And then like all of a sudden you're successful. But most people like give up before they get to that point where things start snowballing. So, and that's really why it's so important to do things this way and really focus on the process, because that way you're not so entrenched in like, oh, you get on the scale today and you're like, damn it, I've lost 0.2 pounds today. That's less than my 1 pound a day goal or whatever it is. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about the results. Just understand things take time, and just focus on the process. Do the right things day in and day out. It's super simple advice, probably a little bit cliche, but this is really like just so impactful. This is really like what we try to do. And this is what works for us, what we do.
It's cliche, and there's at least 50 people in our group listening to this right now who are rolling their eyes and like bored by it and like, yeah, give me the actionable tactics, but they're not focusing on the process. Those same people are going to post tomorrow in the group, posting their CTR stats and asking what to do, when the answer is always the same. Like, make new ads every 3 days, keep testing until ROAS is fucking positive. Like, it's just, yeah, people roll their eyes at the simple advice, but they don't follow it. And you'd be better off just spending your entire life focusing on the simple advice, because simple advice is simple to say, simple to give, but it's not simple to implement.
It's hard as fuck.
Yeah, it's super hard. And I mean, we have to remind ourselves to do this stuff all the time. And if you just focus on doing the right simple things for your entire life, you'd probably get out way ahead of the norm.
Dude, it's crazy. I feel like you need like I don't know. For personally, for me, I feel like I need these reminders like every couple months. Like I know this. This is a concept that I literally fucking like lived by this like a couple years ago, and then I totally forgot about it. Like I totally forgot about it, and like for me, this really showed up with with what I do on YouTube. Like last year, I was just like kind of in this weird rut with YouTube, I guess. And I was just so focused on trying to make a video that would blow up, that would like do, hundreds of thousands or a million views and like really grow the channel. And I was just so focused on the result that I forgot about the process and I stopped putting out videos consistently. And that was really like the most detrimental thing that just, caused the channel to stagnate. And then a couple months ago, I like freaking knocked myself on the head. I was like, dude, what are you doing? And then just started posting videos consistently again, and the channel's growing. So just because you hear something doesn't mean that you're like living by it or internalizing it. And like, this is even so meta to the point where like, I feel like even like we're talking about this and I can see so many places in my life where I'm not really living by this, and it's not easy, but I think you kind of got to take a hard look at yourself sometimes and be like, well, I mean, if this is so simple, am I doing it? A lot of cases, the answer is not always. And that's part of the reason that we like to talk about this stuff, because it's really the most impactful stuff that is going to, I don't know, make you more money, make your life better. All the stuff that we're here for, try to help you with. So
Wrap it up with when you're working on your goals and your process goals every single day, remember to enjoy the struggle because you'll miss it when it's over.
Oh yeah. The OGs of the e-com dispenser will remember that episode. What episode was that? That was episode number 10.
Was it 10. Jason Akativ that told you that?
No.
Was it someone else?
No, dude. I feel like I mean, maybe Tej inspired that. But like, dude, that was from like my own fucking life, man. Like that was
someone told you that at the Cartel's Mastermind.
Maybe.
I think so. I'm pretty sure. Because it's stuck in my mind because you told me about it. I'm pretty sure that was some big e-com cowboy.
I don't remember anyone talking about that there, but it's possible. I don't know. I get inspiration and ideas from so many different places. It's hard to fucking keep it all straight.
Anyway,
folks, how to set goals. Set a specific goal. Have a deadline for it. Get what you think is realistic in your head. Then 1.5x it. Once you have the goal-oriented goal, literally just fucking put it down. Don't even think about it. Focus on the process. Reverse engineer the daily things you need to do to reach that goal. Only focus on those things. If you do the things that you need to do each day, that day is a success. And yeah, keep focusing on the process. Doing the right things day in and day out, and the results, they will come. They will come. Just trust your boys on this one. I think this is really like just by far the absolute best way to set goals. So do it that way you will. Apply it to your own life. And we'll talk to y'all in the next one.